works. If you say his name 5 times while looking in the mirror, he appears in the reflection and kills you.
Who would do that?
Candyman. 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 Candyman.
Well, we're still alive. Let's go. Trina, you broke the door. This isn't funny!
I feel really connected to this neighborhood. Cabrini Green. It was the projects. I just moved in around the corner.
The old candy factory.
I'm an artist.
You looking for Candyman? He's the monster that's part of this neighborhood.
Why are you drawn to this?
I'm hoping to spread the story all about Candyman. The mirror invites you to summon him. You should say his name. I dare you.
Candyman. Candyman.
Candyman.
Candyman.
Don't say that.
Candyman.
I think I made a mistake. I brought him back.
Candyman isn't real!
Something's happening to me.
He had a purpose for you. To be another one of his terrible stories.
I guess he found me. I am the writing on the wall. The sweet smell of blood. Be my victim.
This isn't real. It's not real. Candyman.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store. Back where it says horror videos and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Not the prime time, bitch!
Long live the new Fletch.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal. We have such sights to show you.
We've got to return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to a very long overdue new edition of Movie House Horror, where we review something that is brand new, and we don't just give you some sort of trash Mike makes us watch from 1983. So we are here with a very special guest. We're always happy to have him. Colton, he's in the house.
Hello, hello. Happy to be back.
And I'm here with the ever lovely co-host, Xylia.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about brand new. We're recording, what's the date? The 27th? August 27th. This movie came out today. Candyman, 2021, although is it kind of 2019?
Yeah, wasn't it supposed to come out like last year, or was it the year before? I don't know. It was delayed a lot due to COVID. I remember that.
COVID just fucking everything up. But yeah, we're here to talk about Candyman, directed by Nia DaCosta.
Written by her and Jordan Peele, which there's definitely some Jordan Peele DNA in this movie for sure.
Someone people may have heard of.
Yeah.
Little unknown guy, Jordan Peele. I was gonna say maybe just to open it up, we could start with like our Candyman knowledge. Like, have we seen the other movies? That kind of thing. Why don't we start with you, Colton?
Yeah, actually, I heard of Candyman back when I was a kid, but like I didn't watch a lot of horror movies or anything growing up. So I always heard of like the myth of Candyman, like don't say his name 5 times in the mirror. But I actually didn't watch Candyman until after you guys put out your Candyman episode. So I listened to you guys spoil the hell out of the movie for me, and then I jumped into it because I have like a semi-weekly like horror movie night with a couple of friends of mine, and one of us picked Candyman, and I like absolutely loved it. Like it definitely would be a sleigh for me. So I was really looking forward to this one. I didn't watch either of the sequels, but I guess I'll leave it for you guys to tell me if those are worth watching or not. But
you go next, Xylia.
So, I feel like I definitely talked about this on the episode, but I first saw Candyman when I was in grade 5, and it's been one of my favorite horror movies since. I've seen it several times. In terms of the sequels, last night I saw the first like maybe 10 minutes of the second one, and shout out to Kelly Rowan from the OC. And then
OC shout out.
I've never seen the third one. But like I said, the first one is still one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I was gonna say for me, like I saw Candyman probably like really young, like definitely somewhere between like 6 and 10. My mom was like a huge Clive Barker fan, anything Clive Barker.
Oh, okay.
So I've been like a huge fan of the Candyman movie. Since then, I've owned the Scream Factory edition of the second one forever and never watched it till 2 days ago.
Oh, jeez.
And then last night while I was at work, I attempted to watch the third one on my iPad. And
attempted to watch? Is it that bad?
Attempted. I made it like 20 minutes, and I was just like, yeah, I'm okay not seeing this.
Okay.
But, so yeah, I mean, I'm like a huge Candyman. It's probably it's up there with my favorite Clive Barker properties.
And as Mike said on our episode, Tony Todd is God.
Oh yeah, he's awesome in that first movie.
Yeah, amazing. So, let's bring it to 2021, Candyman.
Yeah, so before we get into it too much, we're going to be spoiling this, right? Like a spoiler warning for people that are listening, just to make sure.
That's right.
Yes.
Definitely we will spoil it. Even if we tried to promise we wouldn't spoil it, I know me and Xylia would just spoil it, so.
Yeah, I definitely would.
How would we like to start this? Maybe just like some initial thoughts on, I was going to say up front, I wasn't familiar with the director. I never saw Little Woods. I've heard of it. I never saw it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I know that she's directing The Marvels, which I think the female lead in this movie is in that because she was in WandaVision, Tiona Paris.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen anything by Anita DaCosta other than this.
I'm going to start with a couple short positives. I really liked the cast selection. Like, I thought they were good picks, and I really loved the set design, and a lot of the art in it was beautiful, which makes sense, the artists. It was beautiful. There were I'm very into symmetry, and there were a lot of beautiful symmetrical designs, and yeah, the set design was gorgeous for the most part.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the bigger budget, modern mainstream horror feel is there for sure. It's very polished. The whole vibe of the movie is definitely closer to a modern day horror movie, and it even has a bit of more of a budget than, I don't know, let's say the Halloween remakes or whatever. Even though this is the revisioning of a 90s I don't know if it'd be a cult classic horror property. I mean, it's not as big as some of them, but it still has a lot of polish in this movie, and I didn't necessarily expect that going into this movie. I thought it might be a little bit grungier or grittier like the first one. So that was something I went in, I was like, okay, it's a little bit different than what I was expecting, but it did look good for sure. But
even the second half, where they're more so in the abandoned Cabrini Green property, it was gritty, but it was still more polished than they had done it in the 90s.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I was gonna say what was kind of interesting to me, Xylia's talking about everything being symmetrical and a lot of that stuff, is I noticed as I looked on Letterboxd at what she's done, she directed a bunch of episodes of Top Boy, which I am a huge fan of, and now it totally makes sense because the setting is almost exactly the same. Top Boy is essentially The Wire, except in England. And it's
gotcha. Okay.
So it's set in like a ghettoized area and like that kind of building structure. And also, interesting enough, you know, that show deals with like gentrification.
In terms of gentrification, let's get into this. It did a real flimsy job of actually talking about gentrification.
Yeah, I guess growing up in Labrador, like obviously I'm pretty sheltered from gentrification. I think my town had maybe like one black person, like so it's not something like that I'm too familiar with in terms of like New York City or like Chicago areas or anything like that. So when I was watching it, I was like, okay, it gave me like a very I was gonna say skin deep, but very like surface level I guess Cole's notes of what gentrification is in terms of like what they were at least dealing with in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't go much deeper than that, other than I think dealing with like how the main character Anthony kind of feels about, I guess, profiting off of it or trying to make a career off of like kind of like a history of that sort of pain.
Okay, like talk a little bit more about that, about him profiting or like profiting off that history.
Yeah, well, like in the movie, it kind of goes like he's literally just taking like urban legends and taking events that happened like in the Chicago area and just kind of, when he paints it, it's like a very simplistic painting that it's almost like it's not really like the art is kind of like standing for itself. It's almost like his explanation of the art is what is kind of like leading like any like credibility to like what he's doing, which I'm not sure what that is saying, but it's definitely like there's a couple of scenes in the movie where they make it very clear like that is what they're trying to talk about, like if it's the art critic talking about it, or like I think his girlfriend has a conversation a bit with him about it at one point. But
yeah, they're talking when him and his partner and then her brother and his partner together and they're discussing it. Her brother's partner is like, yeah, kind of like this place, because that's like, once you see glass condos going up, you're in trouble. Like that is like the first sign of gentrification. Yeah, I think like besides saying that the area around Cabrini Green was becoming gentrified, I feel like it was so like glossed over. And yeah, he like tried to make art about it, which was also, I agree, very surface level. And then I don't know about this guy.
I did kind of like some of the visuals of like Cabrini Green being like completely like dwarfed by like these skyscrapers or these apartment buildings, and even like the intro to the movie, it's kind of like it's just all these like glass buildings like in fog or cloud, and they're all like inverted and stuff. Like I think they are trying to do something with that. I don't know if it nails it 100%, but they're trying to do something or trying to say something.
Yeah, I feel like if they had of like, because Candyman, I think we talked about this in the original, Candyman is very much about gentrification.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like it wasn't. I feel like it was just like picked up at the beginning, kind of like glossed over almost, and then like it just wasn't even really talked about afterwards. And also this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say like this movie. It kind of deals with a lot of like different IDs and themes like throughout it, like in terms of like. Just the idea of like an idea taking hold of you and like growing like an infection, or like the evolution of storytellings and urban myths, or like demonizing the other, or just like this all-consuming nature of art. It's not purely just interested, I guess, in like the socio-political commentary, and that when it gets into it, it doesn't go deep enough to kind of make a statement about it. I don't think it's a little bit scattershot in what it's trying to do at times.
Yeah, and also totally unrelated to the gentrification piece, but when the people get killed at the art gallery and they say his name on the news, that's all he cares about, and I'm just like, what a dick.
Oh yeah, he likes the notoriety for sure.
Just a reminder to follow us on all of our social media at It Slays Podcast. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, soon to be on Tumblr. Of course, we're on Spotify and iTunes. And if you're adding us on iTunes, don't forget to leave us an iTunes review. It doesn't even need to be 5-star. We appreciate 5-star. But the most important part is we want to hear from you. So write us a text review in the iTunes app, and we will make sure to give you a shout out on the podcast. Every review helps as it bumps us up in the search engine, and, that's what it's all about. Back to the podcast. Now, I do want to bring up with, saying his name in the mirror 5 times. It must have started when I started to watch the sequels. So when I started watching the sequels, I actually started counting every time a scene they say his name in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I don't think I was off any of the counts, but there was definitely some kills in this one that they didn't say it 5 times.
Oh, really? I never noticed that.
Like, they'd say it 4 times, and then they'd get killed, and I'm like,
There's one instance of that I can remember off the top of my head, and that's literally spoilers. It's right at the ending of the movie with the cop car scene.
Yeah.
She says it 4 times, but then the cop says it in the mirror for the 5th time. So then I was like, okay, I'm not overly familiar with the rules of Candyman. I don't know if it has to be the same person says it 5 times or what. That was the only one I noticed personally, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a couple of other ones that were 3 or 4 times. I remember the schoolgirls were definitely 5 times because they make a big deal out of like each one of them saying it and then saying it together, and then I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I know with the sequels and stuff, like, I mean, the main problem is like many films that become franchises. By the second one, they had added and taken away stuff from the first one. So, I mean, they always do play it kind of loose with Candyman on what exactly happens. I'm trying to wait till we want to get into the really big spoiler, which I say we just talk about it.
Yeah, let's get into it. It seems like you guys like the movie a little bit less than I did, but my main issues, if we want to get into the movie, it's definitely like near the 3rd act for sure. So,
well, I was gonna say let's talk about issues. My main issue,
go for it, yeah,
is that Jordan Peele and Tony Todd pulled the biggest heist of all time. All this hype up that, oh, don't worry, Tony Todd is Candyman.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the movie. And it's like, okay, yeah, he's in the movie like as a painting, and then he's in it in the finale.
Yeah.
Is he in the backgrounds at all? Because there's lots of scenes of where it's like they're doing reflection work, which I actually liked. Or like, I don't know, there's a scene where someone peeks around the mirror, like when at the art critic's house. Like, is Tony Todd a Candyman in any of those scenarios? Do you guys know? I couldn't catch it.
It was the other guy.
That's the other guy.
Oh, okay, it was the other guy? Okay.
Okay, I wish Tony Todd had just been Candyman. Not that random other guy. What the fuck?
So it was the Sherman Fields guy, I think. Yeah. So he was the Candyman for the whole movie. Because when I was watching it, since it was always like his face was kind of obscured or like in reflections and stuff, I wasn't sure if it was Tony Todd or not as I was watching it. I mean, obviously at the end, I knew it was Tony Todd.
Yeah.
But when I was watching, I wasn't sure. So
yes, so it was that other guy. They should have just had Tony Todd be Candyman, but whatever. Also, it didn't, to me, make any sense about having, like, different Candymans throughout history, because when you look at the original, then the Candyman at that point wouldn't have been the Candyman of Tony Todd. It would have been another one that was, like, parallel to the 90s.
It would have been the Sherman guy, because the original set in the 90s.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
so,
like,
that really makes no sense to me at all.
I think I like that conceptually. I like the idea of like the black communities kind of having their own Candyman, or like a way to kind of shield each other from like a horrific event, and just using like a boogeyman to be that. But yeah, I guess it doesn't make sense if you go back to the 90s one, because it would have been the Sherman guy as well rather than Tony Todd. Yeah, I like that idea, like when they revealed that. But yeah, once again, it's like I've only seen Candyman once, and when I saw it, I did think it was a masterpiece. I loved it, but I never got to watch it before I went and saw this one, so I never got to rewatch it last night. Maybe I should have rewatched it, but
I love the idea of like the black community having a boogeyman and stuff like that, but to me it would make more sense if it was just this like historical kind of like supernatural, just like how it was in the original, I think was good, and just the idea that there have been multiples just seemed like it kind of came out of nowhere to me. I don't know. I just was not a fan of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, my main gripes with it obviously was the Tony Todd thing. I mean, anyone's disappointed that you don't get to hear Tony Todd the whole movie talk.
Yeah, even the main dude, like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I've seen him in some other things like Aquaman or Watchmen or whatever. He made his voice like a lot deeper and gravelly for like a lot of this movie, and I was kind of like, is it just like, is he trying to do like a Tony Todd impression like the entire time? Because Tony Todd has like such a deep, like gravelly voice.
Yeah.
And like Yaya was definitely like leaning into that a bit, that I was like, this is a bit weird. Because I've seen his other performances, he doesn't sound that deep.
I kind of had it before they had announced Tony Todd was going to be in it. I was really on board for Yaya to play Candyman. I like him in everything I've seen.
Me too. Yeah, he's great.
But I think my real main issue with it was they confirmed this was a sequel to the first one, where I said kind of when we got out of the theater, I think they would have been way better off just saying we're remaking it. Like we're making our own history of this and just renewing it.
I do like how he turned into Candyman, because that somewhat made sense, because he was the baby from the first one, and the mom, the actress that played the mom was actually the
Vanessa
first
Williams.
one. So to me, okay, I think you could get away with like doing that makes sense, but
it's funny because like that's literally like where the movie started losing me. Like as soon as they tied it into the first one with like with specifically the mom, and I was like, oh my god, he's like the baby in the first one. Like that's where I was like, I would have preferred the other way, where it was this like more like, I don't know, like metaphysical or like symbolic, like he was becoming, rather than an actual like blood relation or like a baby being in the first one. That was where that was like when it was just jumping into the third act, and it was just starting to be like, oh no, like honestly, I'm not enjoying this as much.
I thought it was stupid, but at least like intellectually could be like, okay, that's like somewhat logical in comparison to the rest. I mean, yeah, that was really dumb. But
I was gonna say my other kind of like gripes with it were, so obviously, like I said, I rewatched all of them, which means I also rewatched a lot of Tony Todd interviews on special features. And this movie featured everything Tony Todd has been on record saying he hates about the sequels.
Oh, really?
So Tony Todd, like, has always said that if Candyman is not a gothic romance, it's not good.
Okay.
He's always been totally against CGI bees.
Yeah, and I mean, those were definitely distracting. I'll give him that for sure.
I get probably like, budgetary kind of things, but I just think the practical, we found out with the first one, the practical looks way better.
Can I please talk about CGI? For 1 second.
Yeah.
Go for it.
At the end, when he's fucking like levitating, it
looks
looks
awful.
So bad. It's so corny looking.
Well, and all I was going to say, the other point was Tony Todd has been very adamant that Candyman should not be a slasher movie at all.
Yeah, and this one was definitely, it had a lot of like gory kills in it. I thought it was cool. Like I definitely liked some of them, but they're very over the top, that's for sure. That's where I was kind of talking about like the bigger budget, like modern horror movie scene. Like they're going all out. There's moments in this that I don't know if you guys saw The Invisible Man, but there's like straight up stuff like, oh yeah, this was like in The Invisible Man like 2 years ago or whenever that was. But obviously on a much gorier stage, I guess.
Yeah. My only other gripe is I didn't once get to hear Be My Victim, the Candyman tagline.
Yeah, what does he say at the end of the movie? Is it tell everyone or something he says, I think?
So, he starts off, like the beginning of that monologue at the end is the original monologue, but after like a sentence and a half, they just totally throw it off into something new.
I think there's a lot of a lot of parts of this movie where it just like goes off the rails. Like honestly, the beginning, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like I liked how they brought Helen Lyle into it, and was like this.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, this was like an archaeology, PhD student, and like this is what happened. They thought she went crazy, blah blah blah. And then honestly, once that was done, the whole movie just repeatedly went off the rails for me.
Oh my god.
I spoiler, I really did not like this movie at all. I probably will never watch it again.
Holy shit. What about you, Rowan? How did you feel overall? Like, did it lose you right off the bat after that, or was it like longer into the movie? Or
I gave it a while. I gave it a while because I'm like, all right, I get it. You know, we're gonna wait till the last half, then it's gonna be like Tony Todd City here. And like I said, I had fully kind of jumped on board originally with the idea of Yaya being Candyman.
If he was just Candyman and they didn't have that other guy, the Sherman guy, and they didn't have Tony Todd, I almost think that would have been better.
Yeah, honestly, I think some of that, it just obviously none of that bothered me because I just wasn't sure if it was Tony Todd or not. Because they spent no time on like the dude's face or anything in all these scenes. It was just kind of like the physical presence, like a lot of like imposing silhouettes and stuff. Like there wasn't like too many close-ups that I can remember of them and whatnot. But the movie didn't start losing me at all, which is funny. Like I absolutely loved it up until like the mother scene with the baby, and then I think that was quickly followed by Coleman Domingo's character Burke, kind of just like, I don't know, trying to bring Candyman back in the church, and I was like, okay, this kind of sucks and it's kind of strange. And then it went into like the police shooting, and I was like, okay, this is literally like the last 20 minutes, like pretty much completely lost me. But it was like when I left the theater, I was like, okay, but I still personally, like, I liked everything up to that point. So I was like, oh, it was still good. But yeah, if you guys were annoyed the entire movie, like looking for Tony Todd or being like, oh, this is too gory, or having like more of a knowledge of Candyman and what it's supposed to be, other than me seeing it one time, then yeah, I can understand where you're coming from.
I'm just gonna say, I really like Coleman Domingo. I think just because I think he might have a better voice than Tony Todd. Like, I just really like his voice, so I liked his like narration of the stories and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think that was good. It's just like I didn't like his character change, or it seemed like it turned on a dime. There was a couple of character things in this movie that like it turned really quick. There was another one that it was like at the first art show where Yaya winds up getting like the critic is kind of tearing apart his art.
Yeah.
And then it cuts away, and I'm like, okay, that didn't really resolve. But then he's like really angry, and I think he like calls the guy a cocksucker and makes some reference to how he's sleeping with his intern or something, and he's like, I don't know, drinking beer and throws it and stuff. It's just really over the top. I was like, I didn't like that at all. And then that's what it felt like to me when Coleman Domingo's character, like, I don't know, revealed this grand plan, like right at near the end of the movie. I was like, okay, cool, man. I didn't know. Like,
I wish you could see my face right now.
I feel like we should also talk about like some good things about it. There's good things.
I do remember what I was gonna say. Colton, you mentioned like how you didn't know whether Candyman was Tony Todd or not, just because it was like the silhouette. That in itself is disappointing because Tony Todd in the original, when he was just a silhouette, still had just this like incredible presence. And it's just something about him as an actor. Like he just had, like, he was made for that role. And yeah, even if you could barely see him, you just saw the outline. Like, yeah, he just had amazing presence.
Yeah, I should have really rewatched the first one before this then for that, because it was just kind of like, oh, he has the coat, he has the hook hand, and you know, he's a tall, like, imposing figure. I was like, yeah, it looks like what I remember, I guess, in my head.
Like I said, like, I felt when I was watching it, I feel like I'm an old man. I think that's what it is. Because I'm watching, I'm just like, yeah, like, this is exactly what I think, like, something new horror, like, modern horror for... I mean, because it's definitely aimed at, like...
Younger.
I always call it, like, a popcorn audience. Like, it's definitely aimed at, like, mass market.
I don't know if I'd 100% agree with that, because I just feel like if you haven't seen the first Candyman, you'd be confused in some of this, like, what's going on. Whereas, like, I don't feel like a younger teenage audience, like, if you're going for, like, a 16-year-old, like, I don't think they've seen Candyman.
Okay, well, and I'll agree with that, but see...
But how it was put together.
To me, and that's why... Gotcha. And that's why I think, to me, it probably would have hit better for me as just a complete remake.
Yeah, I think so,
with
too.
Yaya.
I think so.
And then just... It could be this, like... good looking and like it could just be new for a new audience, which like I think like something like the Evil Dead remake, like did an awesome job at that.
Yeah, it was really well done, yeah.
Like Colton said it towards the beginning, there's a lot of ideas going on, and I really don't think any of them were executed well. And I think that was a big issue for me because it made me, to me, the plot was like so thin because all the ideas were like half-baked, basically, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, to me, I still found like the urban legends thing worked for me because it tied in with like Helen Lyle in the first movie, and like starting off with that, I thought it was pretty cool about like what happened in the first one has become urban legend, and like everyone's talking about it, or like they've heard about it at least.
That's the only thing I liked. Cool. I did like that.
I did like that, and conceptually I do think like the idea, if you want to get into like the artistic thing about like, you know, your art consuming you or becoming one with it, like the movie literally has like, I don't know, he's like painting and then his hands are all getting gross and like the bee sting is spreading up his hands and stuff, and it's like he does come like, I don't know, like horrific kind of like some of the art he was doing. So I did get like how he was pushing everybody away in his life and just focusing on this and kind of being consumed by it. I thought at least those two aspects vibed with me like thematically, I guess.
I liked that, and they did kind of touch on it even further because his partner's father killed himself. Yes. And they like basically very briefly said, like, alluded to the fact that he was like all consumed by his art as well. I just wish that I wish they could have picked like maybe those two themes, and just those were the themes they like carried them through and just like unpack them a bit more.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, and I'll say, like, to me, I kind of gave a pass on what I thought was kind of, you know, great ideas but not fleshed out, because I also was kind of like, you know, she's a fairly like new, she co-wrote this, and I was thinking like she doesn't have that much in terms of what she's written, so I kind of also left that to like maybe as a newer director, newer writer as well, give her a little pass, like maybe that's something she can expand on.
I'm the other half of the Shade Brigade. I don't get people's passes.
That's right. The Shade Brigade. But yeah, let's quickly just talk about some positives.
Yeah, no, for me, like, I did like the polish of the movie. Like I said, it might be, like, not similar to the 90s movie, but I think with the whole idea about, I don't know, like, the housing project being, like, having all these condos built up around it, like, having it kind of set in, like, this really, like, uppity art world, I think was at least, like, when it was really polished, it did fit in that world. I did like, I like that. I liked the gore and the effects and stuff. I thought it looked good for the most part. I don't know if, like, you know, when you guys were talking about Candyman, I don't know if it really fits now, I guess, 1-to-1 with that, but I did like it when I was watching it. And I think the papercraft, like, shadow puppetry, I think that was
cool.
Really cool. I did like that for, like, exposition or, like, these little interstitials, or, like, I don't know if you guys sat around for the credits, but they show a bunch of different instances in the credits of, like, with the shadowcraft of, like, you know, other Candymans being made, which obviously you guys said you didn't like, but I did think that was cool. Like, I really liked that papercraft stuff.
I thought that was really unique, really interesting, and I was saying to Rowan, because we were talking about it in the car, it does kind of remind me of like Us a little bit, where they had cut all those people and they had their hands connected and it was paper. I thought that was really cool. In terms of like the art world versus like Cabrini Green, I almost wish there was more of a juxtaposition. Like I was saying at the beginning, even though Cabrini Green was like gritty, it was still polished, and I wish that it wasn't so polished. But I liked that it was set in this, like, you know, high art kind of world, and I do really like how they represented and like situated the like characters, because they put the characters, I don't know, just like black characters are often so stereotypical, or like they put them in these really stereotypical roles, and I feel like they pretty well avoided that in this movie, which I thought was really cool.
I definitely agree with that, but I was gonna say I don't want to discourage anyone. Like, if for some reason you're like, I'm gonna definitely listen to them spoil this, and you haven't seen it, I mean, it's a horror movie in the theater during COVID. Like, go support it. COVID theater experiences are awesome.
It's just like nobody there. There's like 3 or 4 people if you're lucky.
Exactly. Yeah, like, super amazing. I was gonna say, Is there any other points we wanted to talk about?
Well, you never talked about any of your positives of the movie, so maybe you could just spit a few out real quick.
Maybe I was just trying to skip that. No, like I said, like I did like a lot of the sheenness of it. I loved all the performances. Like I thought, like I said, I'm a huge Yaya fan anyway. But like I've been pumped since they announced he was in it. And when they announced him, I had said that I was like, if there's anyone that I'm willing to like give the Candyman mantle to, it's him. Like I think he'd do an awesome job. I know you were saying you're talking about like Aquaman and stuff. See, I'm familiar with him from The Get Down.
Oh, okay.
On Netflix, which he's like amazing. He's also like a villain character on that show. And I just think he does a really good job playing that. And I think he's like stoic enough that he could do it. Yeah, like I thought all the performances were pretty good. There wasn't anyone I was like, this is like questionable. Like I said, I did like the look of it. I can never really complain, I feel, with modern movies. Like, cause that's much more my aesthetic, something a little cleaner. But yeah, I mean, that's basically my main positives on it, was just like, I thought the acting really carried most of the movie to where I was like, yeah, like, you know, it's worth my $10.
Gotcha, yeah.
Hey, are you interested in becoming a horror hound? Then join us at www.patreon.com/itslayspodcast and check out everything we have to offer. We have cool things from podcast shoutouts to picking movies all the way to maybe getting yourself a free t-shirt. So if you're interested in joining us and becoming a horror hound, join us at patreon.com/itslayspodcast. I think we don't want to make this episode like forever long. But let's just like some initial thoughts, and I'm sure when Mike isn't being suckered into working, we'll eventually do a longer episode and have some discussions. Make Colton watch Candyman 3, Day of the Dead.
I'm willing to watch the sequels. I mean, I enjoyed this movie. I'd give it a yay. So, I mean, yeah, I'm willing to check out some more Candyman.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, so you said yay. I guess we could give, like, our first thoughts.
Yeah, soft
our tentative
yes,
reviews.
Of course.
Because, spoiler, when I first saw the Evil Dead remake, I had the same reaction coming out. I was like, this is garbage.
Okay.
These people should never be in film, and now it's probably one of my favorite Evil Dead movies. So you never know how I'm going to come around on it. What would you give it, Xylia?
I'm going to give it an A. I'm an original Candyman stan, and it's like when you love a book and you watch the movie, and it will never live up to your expectations, except this won't ever live up to my expectations of the original. So that's pretty much it.
I'm not as harsh. I give it an okay. I mean, everyone that listens to us knows I'm a sucker. I'm going to buy this when it comes out on Blu-ray.
Oh, of course. Yeah, get the Steelbook.
Yeah, like I can't have all the Candymans and not have this one sitting next to it. Like I said, I think it's worth a watch. I'm more interested to see if this is successful enough to get a sequel.
Oh, I don't want a sequel. I don't know if you guys do, but I don't want one. No.
Me either.
See, I'm willing to I'm like, give us Yaya, let's just do a sequel with Yaya. Gotcha. Yeah. And I'd be cool with that. And let's leave Tony Todd to good memories.
Tony Todd is God.
Yeah, Tony Todd is God. But yeah, so you know, this is our little review of it, and we'll be back. We're gonna upload this tonight, so you guys will hear it tonight. And yeah, we'll be back with whatever that German movie's called that we're reviewing next. Der Bunker. I guess this will be so long. It's your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, Xylia.
And thanks for having me. It's Colton.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
From the prime time, bitch!
Mom with the new fletch.
The pain immortal. We have such sights to show you.
We've got to return some videotapes.